From Atlanta, Georgia, welcome to Fearfully and Wonderfully Me, a podcast for women on leadership and life skills with Rhea Story. Rhea shares powerful life and leadership principles, helping you maximize your potential and become the woman God created you to be.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode on Straight Talk, the power of effective communication. You know, I wanted to share this. This is based on a chapter in my book, Straight Talk. And I really think that this topic today has a lot of power to help us increase our influences when we make mistakes in relationships. And I know I'm not the only one who's needed this information at a critical point in my life, particularly whether it's personally or professionally, honestly. So I called this chapter Speak No Evil. And I just wanted to share the lesson with you. Again, it's just a chapter in the book, but I really know that some of my podcast listeners aren't necessarily interested in reading the whole book, but love to get kind of the chapters of the lessons. But this book is available on Audible or audio books if you prefer to listen instead of read. So if this topic interests you and how to communicate with people more effectively or communicate and connect with people more effectively, sometimes I share some little lessons from the books in my podcast episodes. So today's episode is on speaking no evil. And I know it's kind of a cliche, but I really know that I'm not the only one who's ever said or done something. And, you say something in the heat of the moment and later you regret having said it. Odds are good that you have experienced this too. We might blame it on a short temper or being ill or just the heat of the moment. But once it's said, those words can't be taken back. And words can be sharp and cruel, and they can be hurtful. That's one reason Lawrence Peter said, "Speak when you are angry, and you will make the best speech you'll ever regret." And when it comes to communicating with other people and connecting and building relationships and influence, sometimes not saying something can be far more powerful and helpful than saying something that you will regret saying later. So, I have to share this story, and I honestly, I think it just really demonstrates how sometimes we get ourselves in a mess by what we say. And years ago, I was teaching group fitness at a local gym, and there was a new instructor who was going through the certification process, and he was going to video his class as part of the final exam or the final testing. So I showed up to support him, as I always really tried to do when new instructors were going through this role. And, if nothing else, I could just be there to help support and be the cheerleader, because I know what it's like to be on stage. And, it's just nice to know that there's someone in the audience there rooting for you. So plus it was a 5:30 in the morning class, and I knew there wouldn't be as many people. So sometimes just an extra set of hands to help out is nice. So I'm going to call this person Kevin, and that's not his real name, but that's what I'm going to call him. And I didn't really know Kevin very well. I'd only just said hello. He was a new instructor, so I really didn't know him very well. So he videoed his class that morning, and I stuck around for a few minutes just to help him get the room cleaned up. And we walked out together after the class, and he turned around and he said to me, he said, "You know what, I just wanted to say thanks for helping out this morning. And by the way, I wanted to let you know my whole church will be praying for you and the baby." Now, since I wasn't pregnant and I wasn't planning to be, you can imagine my shock. See, Kevin was a pastor of a local church, and starting his journey as a fitness instructor was really just something he wanted to do on the side. And so I just kind of stammered out. I said, "Well, thanks, but I'm not expecting." And then I immediately wanted to be defensive that he apparently thought I looked pregnant. And now he had an entire congregation praying for me. And honestly, he looked like he had just swallowed a frog whole. And he said, you're not? I mean, I'm sorry. I guess I thought, and at this point, he just decided to quit talking, which he apparently decided correctly that he was only making it worse by trying to cover up his mistake. And he said, "Well, someone told me you were." And it took me just a few minutes to realize he had just simply mistaken me for another instructor. And she was expecting. And he just had simply gotten our identities mixed up. And it's certainly understandable. And we've probably all had an opportunity to mix up people at times in our life. And so, he and I just shared a laugh about it once I figured out what had gone on. And he just kind of chuckled. He said, I'll have to be more careful next time. And, it was just we were able to laugh it off, and it didn't defend me. It doesn't always turn out to be funny like it did that time. But, a lot of times words that we speak, especially in anger or grief, can be very hurtful and can destroy a relationship that took years to develop. And often the people that we love the most are the ones that have the most power to hurt us with their words, and vice versa. So, and just in case this ever happens, here are a couple of tips that I use that help you move forward in that instance. We all have the ability to pause and choose our response to any given situation, but we don't always get it right. Sometimes we get it wrong. And when we do, here's a couple ideas on moving forward. Number one, apologize. Immediately, sincerely, completely, thoroughly. If you say something that's inappropriate or hurtful or wrong, offer a sincere apology. The word here is sincere. Don't apologize if you don't mean it, but it won't fix everything, but it can go a long way towards repairing the relationship. Number two, don't make excuses. Sure, we all think we need a little grace when things aren't going our way, but it's important not to make an excuse when you hurt someone. And number three, accept the consequences. Regardless of a sincere apology, there are instances where something that you said caused irreparable damage. We choose our actions and we choose our words, but we don't get to choose the consequences of those. And it's a painful lesson. So learning it now will prevent it from happening in the future. So think before you speak. Even when you're angry or frustrated or sad or mad, walk away if you need to. And you can come back and return to the conversation when you're feeling much better. Again, I know it's easy to say and difficult to do, but as Calvin Coolidge said, I have noticed that nothing I never said ever did me any harm. Until next time.
Start increasing your influence and maximizing your potential with Ria's audiobooks. Available at audible.com, amazon.com, and iBooks. Please visit riastory.com to learn about Ria's books, resources, speaking, and training programs. Thanks for listening.